So in this series we will talk about the EKG. In this very first video I will discuss some basic principles that you need to grasp before you start your journey with the EKG. I will discuss the normal EKG paper and I will give you some definitions about the waves, segments and intervals that you are going to see on a normal EKG paper. Now this is your normal EKG paper. You can see that there are 12 leads on this EKG paper. We have 6 limb leads, lead 1, 2, 3, AVR, AVL and AVF. And we have also 6 chest leads from V1 through V6. You can also see that this EKG paper is made up of large squares within which there are smaller squares. The large squares are bordered by thick lines, whereas the smaller squares are bordered by thinner lines, as we will see in the next photo. Now in this photo we can see a magnified portion of an EKG paper. As you can see, it is divided into a horizontal axis and a vertical axis. The horizontal axis represents the time, the duration of the wave or the segment, while the vertical axis represents the electricity, the voltage. Okay? Now, you can also see that the paper is divided by thick lines which define the large squares. Within each large square there are small squares, 25 small squares, 5 by 5. The small squares are lined by thin lines. Okay, so each small square represents 0.04 seconds in time, i.e. horizontally it is 0.04 seconds, and it represents 0.1 millivolt of electricity. Vertically, 0.1 millivolt of electricity. So one large square would make 2 seconds, because it is made of 5 horizontal squares. 5 multiplied by 0.04 will make 2 seconds, and will represent 0.5 millivolt, because it is made of 5 vertical small squares. 5 multiplied by 0.1 gives us 0.5 millivolt. Now we will have some definitions. These definitions describe what you are going to see on an EKG paper. So the electrical activity of the heart is described in terms of waves, intervals and segments. Waves are the deflection that result from depolarization or repolarization of the cardiac tissue. The interval is the period from the beginning of one wave to the beginning of the next one. A segment is the interval from the end of one wave to the beginning of the next one, and we will see what does that mean in the next slide. So this slide shows us the normal cardiac cycle. We have here the waves, the segments and the intervals. The wave, as I said, is the deflection that results from depolarization or repolarization. So you can see the P wave, which represents the atrial depolarization, the QRS complex, which represents the ventricular depolarization, and the T wave, which represents the ventricular relaxation. We have also the segments. You can see the PR segment starts from the end of the P wave to the beginning of the R wave. We have the ST segment, which starts from the end of the S wave to the beginning of the T wave. And we have intervals. We have the PR interval, which starts from the beginning of the P wave to the beginning of the R wave, and the QT interval, which represents the period from the beginning of the Q wave to the end of the T wave. Thank you.